Well, hello, friends and neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome to my basement. Welcome to the Whiskey Nook. I'd like to wrap up this week with a couple of thoughts on some bourbon. Tonight, I want to share with you a bit about Larceny. This is from Heaven Hill. It is a wheated bourbon. I'll talk more about it after the break. I don't know a ton about the history, but we'll pour some bourbon. We'll think of some thoughts, share some thoughts, and hopefully have something that you can pour along. So when we get back, I'll talk to you about Larceny from Heaven Hill.
3, 4.
Hey, thanks for staying with me. It has been a long week. I haven't really spent more than a couple of minutes to collect my thoughts, but I wanted to have, end the week and the day with a nice drink, and I thought I'd like to share a drink with you guys. So this will be some thoughts on Larceny bourbon. Now, I mentioned in the intro that it is a wheated bourbon, and if perhaps you're new to bourbon, what that really means is, bourbon, of course, it has to be 51% or more corn, and most are quite a bit more are really closer to that 70% corn. And then often to add some spice and some interest, another grain in the mash bill will be rye, because rye adds a fair amount of character and spice and backbone. And then often barley, malted, because it often has the enzymes to really open up a mash bill. In a wheated bourbon, there's no rye. Instead, you use wheat. Now, I don't know the mash bill in Larceny from Heaven Hill. I wish I did. When I looked at a few sites online, it just says, what was it, up to a third more than competitors, that kind of thing. And, later, if you stick around, I will, do some comparison thoughts with Maker's Mark, a very famous, more famous than Larceny wheated bourbon. And Maker's Mark, I think it's published, so that's about 16% red winter wheat. So likely Larceny is about 20% wheat, and I don't know, 68% corn, somewhere like that. Now, Larceny has an interesting story to it. Now, I know it's more like kind of mythology and possibly marketing, but I kind of like this story. And I don't know any more than really what's on the bottle. So, why does it show a lock? Why Larceny? Well, the idea was Mr. Fitzgerald, Johnny Fitzgerald, was a treasury agent back in the day. I don't know. It's got to be like back in the day. It's got to be like 1800s. I don't know. Does it say on here? It doesn't say. But as a treasury agent, he had the keys to get into the warehouses. And as Mr. Fitzgerald apparently was known to do, because he had the keys, he knew where the best casks, the best barrels were. And he would choose, I guess, frankly, steal bourbon that he really enjoyed. And he liked bourbon that was wheated instead of rye. So that's really the story. I think it says he gave him temptation. He always picked the best barrels. He liked those that contained wheat. It's a fun story. And so Larceny apparently is a nod to that style of bourbon that Johnny Fitzgerald would be interested in thieving. So that's why it looks like a bottle that we might be stealing. I wish I knew more about Heaven's Hill. I don't know. Like it says, it's it's a straight bourbon and there's no age stamp. So the youngest it could be would be 4 years. But I don't know how old it is. This is released at 92 proof or 46%. As I said, wheat instead of rye. Let's get at the bourbon and wrap up this week. Hope you have something to drink along with. This nose is, it's not aggressive. I find it kind of sweet, kind of honeyed, a little bit of spice, but not very specific. Still a tasty, when I say honeyed and spice, I mean, like a nice pastry, like a cinnamon nut or a cinnamon bun. It's not so bright cinnamon or anything, but like that kind of when you walk into a bakery and you've got those spices going on. Oh, and it's weird. Well, yeah, maybe I won't go there. But it's a nice, closer to honey, closer to spice, light toffee, nose. There's a sweetness. I can't really pick up a fruit on it right now. But it's nice. That's the nose. Let's try a sip. Cheers. Interesting. Kind of first round of the night, so it's yeah, it's staying close to that toffee, caramel, baking spice, not deep dark clove, more light cinnamon and brown sugar. You know, brown sugar. I better try another sip. You know, it's actually pretty approachable. Okay. So the second sip I took a little more. That's got a little more going on. A little more, okay, grabbing me, a little more oak. I was missing that in the first sip. It's quite coating. Or not gentle, but it's not chewy, but it's got, you know, a fair good mouthfeel, good presence in the mouth. I still keep thinking in my mind, you know, a nice cinnamon bun. It's not overly spicy though, but like that bun part, but flavored, brown sugar, buttered maybe. Yeah, maybe you put butter on that fresh cinnamon bun. Yeah, I can get there. Absolutely. Oh, okay. Now that we're talking, so now we're really into the finish. I can get a little bit of fruit. Not a ton. Like what would be a pretty gentle, not crisp sharp, but like a really ripe red apple. Yeah, like a golden delicious, you know, like not a crisp cut kind of, but a ripe red apple. Nice. Can tell it's Friday. Gonna go for a third sip. I'm not getting a lot more notes. I think we've settled into a little bit of a bready note, not bready, like a pastry note, brown sugars, light cinnamons, really ripe fruit, something sharp, red apple, skin of an apple. Little bit of bitterness there at the later finish. Yeah, if that would fade away, my overall impression would be better. I actually like Larceny. It's a fun story, but I would say the bourbon probably has a broad appeal in that I think it's a little sharper and a little bit, you know, sweeter and really good in the mouth. I probably like that maybe the best of Larceny. And I don't know, they're like it would be typical to say, you know, rye brings the cut spice, grass, hay, like those kinds of things, pepper. And if you have wheat, it's going to be softer. I know that's true, but there are so many things that can bring out any of those flavors, from, you know, yeast, casking, to all kinds of things. In this case, I find this sweet, tasty, relaxed spices, and the coating I'm going to attribute to the wheat. Could be wrong, but I find it like it's got a nice kind of texture to it that I like. So it really is only 3.5, but it's a really drinkable bourbon. And if you haven't had it, I think it's worth a try. In my market, it's priced a little bit above what I hear it goes for in so many other markets. But I found this on sale, Sierra Springs, one of the best liquor stores in the province. And at the price they were putting it at, like, you know what? It was a great bourbon. So I don't regret it. I like it. Critically, it's probably 3.5 stars, maybe a little bit more, but not much. Okay. So if you stayed with me, you know that if I have something I can compare it with, I like to. So I think a pretty natural comparison would be to look at Maker's Mark. Maker's Mark is, I would suggest, probably the most famous wheated bourbon. Maybe Weller, maybe Pappy would be famous, but available bourbon. And for that, I think Maker's Mark. I imagine you've heard, right? Classic hand dipped red wax top, wheat instead of rye. In this case, we know, or at least it feels like it's been published at 16% red winter wheat. Balance corn and barley. It's released at 45%. Let's see how it compares in this sitting, just, with Larceny, another wheated bourbon. Wow. That is such a different nose in this sitting. It is sharper, brighter. Stays with what I thought earlier. This is cooked. It is carameled. It's brown sugar. But Maker's Mark in this case, brighter cinnamon. Fruit is sharper, more cherry. Right now, this evening, it's a little less full. It's a little less rich than Larceny. Let's try the palate. Cheers. And that palate stays a little sharper, which normally I actually like really bold, bright flavors. And in this case, it is brighter, spicier, even a little more pepper. And as I said, the fruit's a little more distinguishable. Crisp apple, but really maybe a little cherry. Spices, bright cinnamon. But, this is a more cooked down, sugared nose. Well, there it had a little more oak, but I was going to say more gentle, more chewy palate. I'm a bit surprised. I've come to appreciate Maker's Mark over the years, but in this sitting tonight, I would put this, maybe in 3 3/4 star kind of. It's not quite 4, but this is a richer, sweeter dram. This is brighter, sharper, spicier for sure, but it's lacking something. It has even a little more astringency, a little more, I don't know, almost an alcohol presence for me. Now, it could be the bottle, right? It's a smaller taster bottle, and I haven't had Maker's Mark in quite a while. But tonight, in this sitting, I really have to give the nod to Larceny, and I would suggest to give it a try. Well, I hope you guys had a great week. It's been a bit of a long week for me, but it sure has been nice to come down here to this nook and pour a dram with you guys, talk through a bit of bourbon, and I hope that you guys are well. I hope that this weekend you can recharge, and let's all do whatever we can to reduce the spread of this terrible virus, so that one day soon we'll have the most amazing global party. You guys have a great weekend.